Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for nearly 37 years. I'm not a medical professional of any kind, but 37 years is long enough to develop an awful lot of experience and knowledge and just general strategies for life with MS. And I'd like to share some of my thoughts and experiences with you. Today I'm thinking about something that's, kind of been rolling around in society lately. This idea of rights versus privileges. But I want to be sure to let you know that this is not going to be political in any way, so just hang in there with me and see where I'm going to take this. But rights and privileges used to be very distinct. I know when I was growing up, they had very different meanings. A right was something that no one could really take away from you. It was something innate to you as a human being. You had a right to certain things. And then a privilege, by contrast, was something that you basically had to have permission to do. So while you might have a right to breathe, you might not have the right to exhale a bunch of cigarette smoke in people's faces or in a public space or whatever. So there are things that we are able to do by right, and there are things that we have to have permission to do. So in other words, you can't practice law or medicine or accounting or any number of other professions without the certification that is required by some agency that grants you the permission to do that thing. You can do it, but it's not legal. And if you're caught, I guess you get in trouble. So yeah, be advised. The thing that's happening with rights and privileges as terms is that nowadays, a lot of talk is that privileges really ought to be rights. And the line between a privilege and a right is becoming more blurred. Like people will say, healthcare is a right. I don't know. Not going to get into that because it's kind of a political hot potato. But I do want to talk about how it relates to multiple sclerosis and what it's made me think about lately. When we're talking about multiple sclerosis, what is a right and what is a privilege? And I want to specifically talk today about walking. As a young person growing up, you're a toddler, you learn how to walk, and once you learn how to walk, you walk all over the place and you don't even give it any thought. If someone were to ask, do you have a right to walk? Most people would say, well, yes, of course I have a right to walk. I've got two legs. I can go where I want to go. There may be a sign occasionally that says no trespassing or keep off the grass, but no one can tell me just flat out, no, you cannot walk. You may not be able to walk in a certain place, but you can walk. No one will stop you. Well, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I had some oral surgery, and I asked them to put me under general anesthesia so that I didn't even have to be conscious during the surgery, number one, but also I didn't want to trigger the trigeminal neuralgia, and I thought perhaps there wouldn't have to be as much Novocaine given or whatever the deadening agent is. They wouldn't have to do it quite so much if they put me under. And then the needles might not bother that nerve, and I might not get the trigeminal neuralgia, etc., etc., etc. And so far, so good as far as that goes. I will have you know, it's been about 2 months now, and I haven't had any attacks of trigeminal neuralgia. But what I have had ever since the general anesthesia is the heaviness in my legs. And that translates into a difficulty in standing for what most people wouldn't consider a long period of time. But for me, it seems that things are quite different now. The first time was a few weeks after the surgery, and the surgery itself was fine. I was healing up. I wasn't in any pain. Things were good. But I had gotten some new canisters, and I wanted to put some like packaged nuts and things in those canisters because I thought that would help me see how much I had and all this kind of stuff. So I was doing that. And I'd say I was standing at the counter for, I don't know, maybe, let's just say 15 minutes. I don't know. I wasn't timing myself. But when I finished, I turned around to walk away and go about my business, and my legs were like jello. I had a hard time walking. There was another occasion, same thing. I was standing for too long, whatever too long is, and my legs just started to feel really wobbly, like they might not hold me up, and I just had to go and sit down. So I have really changed how I go about my life now. I used to be able to take on, or at least propose I would take on, things that now I'm not so sure that I can. I'm hoping that it will go away, but I don't know. So I have to kind of adjust my life accordingly. As I explained it to my husband, it's kind of like when we used to live in our old house that was built in 1825, the ceilings were like 11 feet high. So I felt like, okay, you got 11 feet worth of headroom, right? You could buy the biggest Christmas tree you could find, it would fit in there. The house we live in now has more standard height ceilings for modern homes. So I don't know what that is, 8 feet, something like that. I haven't measured it, but it's quite a bit shorter. It's quite a bit lower than the ceilings we had in our New York house. So I don't have as much headroom. I don't have as much excess room to work with. If we look at it that way and think of it in that analogy, before this latest phase of fatigue, I felt like I had a lot more headroom. I could say to myself, well, I might not be able to walk 5 miles, but I think I could walk down the block, a couple of blocks to the store and back. I am not so sure now that I have the headroom to do that. And I've had to adjust my expectations accordingly. Well, what does that all have to do with rights and privileges? Well, we were just talking about how walking, most people would say that that was a right. But now I would say for me, walking is a privilege. The fact that I can even walk at all, I'm really, really grateful. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how long this will last, but it sure has given me a good sense of the fact that walking is not something to be taken for granted. Standing is not something to be taken for granted. I have friends who are in a different phase of their MS and they don't walk routinely. They don't stand routinely. And I would be interested to know from them, what do you think? Do you think walking is a right and it was infringed upon by MS and taken away from you, and that it's something innately unjust and unfair about that? I certainly could get behind that as an idea. Or do you see walking as a privilege that somehow MS as this agent has taken away from you and not giving you the permission that you need to be able to walk? So it's like MS is some traffic cop or something standing there handing out tickets, and you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, I'm getting silly. I know it's crazy, but it does it does make me think, right? The things that I consider rights are perhaps not as much of a right as I might have thought, and where I might have 6 months ago and certainly 20 years ago said, yes, I do. I have a right. I not only have a right to walk, I have a right to wear high-heeled shoes. Right? And I did routinely. And now I have to be really careful how far I think I'm going to be able to walk. Can I even do like grocery shopping? Do I have enough gumption for that? I don't even know. I'm testing it out. I'm still testing the waters. It's sort of like there's this permission out there, but no one kind of gave me the permission slip, so I don't know what my permissions involve and when am I going to bump up against it? Nope, you don't have permission to do that. So MS is just kind of being the bad guy, I guess. And maybe this will just straighten itself out. I don't know. I don't have any way of knowing. But the way that I deal with just about anything is just to kind of turn it into some ridiculous analogy or personification of something that is totally impersonal and really doesn't have anything personal against me. It's just the way life is. But still, it's more fun for me to look at it this way. And I don't know if you do the same kind of thing. I'd be really interested to know. Do you get silly like this too? It's so helpful for me to have a sense of humor about my multiple sclerosis because, you're not going to change anything by being grumpy about it. So you're more pleasant for others to be around if you can find a way to at least see some humor in it. But I'd be interested to know if you share that or if you have a different opinion. So that's it. I'm done fooling around here. I'll let you go. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video.